You got it, man, just pedal.
I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die.
Stand up.
Oh, dude. Man, I think we need to make a how to jump video for these people.
Yeah, good idea. Welcome back, YouTube. Today we're going back to basics to cover a topic that many of you guys actually requested in the comments section, and that's how to jump a BMX bike properly. Now, if you're new to BMX, you definitely want to start here or the how to bunny hop video, which I will link to in the description below.
Now, obviously this is centered around BMX bikes, but these are skills and techniques you can take on to dirt jump bikes, mountain bikes, pretty much anything with two wheels.
Now, the first step in all this is to find your ramp you're comfortable jumping. This will typically be some sort of dirt jump, a launch ramp at your local park, or if you're lucky, an amazing backyard setup like this. Wish I had this in my backyard.
Dude, I had a curb. Now, a full-size, nice box jump like this isn't necessarily required to learn how to jump on, but for our sake, for this video, it is kind of ideal to have. But these techniques we talk about will transfer over regardless of what you're riding, with some slight techniques here and there, which we will discuss later. We're gonna break this down into 3 different sections: the takeoff, the air time, and the landing. So let's get to it.
Now, the first thing you want to do before you ever start jumping a ramp is actually read the takeoff, because as you would imagine, something like this with a bit more transition to it is going to send you in the air differently than something like a flat bank, for example.
Yeah, exactly. So a flat bank, you have to rely on your bunny hop technique to generate all your height. Whereas a transition jump like this, you have to rely on pumping that transition to generate your airtime. Starting off, approach the lip at a comfortable speed with your pedals even. On a transition jump like this, you'll need to generate speed through the takeoff by pumping the transition. This allows you to get maximum height rather than you pushing through the transition just to clear the jump. So when it comes to pumping a transition, I like to think of it like a skateboarder and a half pipe. A skateboarder doesn't have any pedals, so they can't pedal to generate speed. They have to rely on pumping that transition to get them speed and get them height. It's the same on a bike. You can learn to pump a transition like this and get comfortable pumping to give you speed to generate height off a takeoff of a jump.
So another thing you want to consider is using the entire transition, because as Austin mentioned, if you pull up a little earlier in that and not use the entire transition, you're really limiting yourself, because you're not using the full scope of the ramp to get that airtime. If you're popping off, which that happens quite often, we see people pop off the lip real early. They almost do like a bunny hop off the lip a lot earlier than they should. And you're just really limiting yourself as far as how high you can go.
Yeah, exactly. If you have a 5-foot jump, you don't want to use 3 foot of it. You want to use all 5 feet of that to get you more airtime to get over the jump. Now that you've got a good feel of the transition and what to expect, from here we move on to the air and proper body position. Instinctively, your body wants to get away from danger. So that's why a lot of people move towards the back of the bike and they freeze up in the air. That's why a lot of people get kicked sideways or get bucked over the bars. The biggest tip I can give you when it comes to jumping is staying in an aggressive attack position on the bike over the bars and staying loose in the air. Imagine an arc from takeoff to landing. A lower speed will generate a lower arc. As you learn to add speed and pump off that transition, you will need to adjust the shape of your arc to avoid overshooting the landing. To prevent this, let that speed generate height and not distance.
No matter what kind of takeoff, no matter how steep or mellow the transition is, your upper body needs to be perpendicular to the ground. Keep that in mind as you start jumping steeper transitions, because while your bike is going up at a steeper angle, as long as you keep your body in that perpendicular position, not too far forward or too far back, you're gonna be okay. As our friend Joe Battaglia would say, control the bike, don't let the bike control you. As simple as that sounds, it really does speak volumes, because as you start jumping a lot, you kind of get lazy with it and you end up reacting to the bike instead of putting the bike exactly where it needs to be. When it comes to the landing, much like the takeoff, you actually want to read the transition. So something like this box jump here, we have a steeper angle to it. So ideally what you want to do is actually nose in a little bit more to where your wheels, the angle of your wheels are actually matching the angle of the transition of the landing.
Exactly. The one exception to that is when you have a pretty flat landing, or even sometimes a completely flat landing, you want to do what we call land airplane mode, which is landing back wheel down first and then front wheel. And that basically your body acts as suspension to eat up some of that impact before your front end hits. And it just makes a smoother landing overall.
Now what you don't want to do is actually land back wheel heavy on something like this, because this is again a steeper transition. You land too much back wheel heavy, you're gonna end up looping out, smacking the back of your head. Don't let that scare you. You are going to probably instinctively at first, because you're just kind of getting used to jumping, landing a little bit back wheel heavy, and that's okay, as long as you're not leaning off the back of the bike to where that bike does get away from you. Definitely, as you get more and more comfortable, try to match your wheels with the angle of that transition.
Yeah, and that goes back to what we talked about earlier, is being in that attack position with your body, whether it's on the takeoff, in the air, or in the landing. If you're landing back as in passenger mode, like I like to say, that's when you are gonna loop out. But even on the landing, if you land up in that aggressive attack riding position, you can get away with landing a little bit back wheel heavy and still be all right.
So ultimately, this is all gonna take some practice, but hopefully with what we've talked about today, you should be able to jump consistently after a few hours. Maybe not as high as you want or throwing down any tricks, anything like that. But keep in mind, this is a starting point, and that all comes later just as you get more comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about taking baby steps, learning the basics of generating some pop, and working your way from there to get further and further over time.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate the support. Special thank you to our friend Cullen here for letting us borrow this amazing backyard setup. This place is pretty awesome, so we really appreciate you letting us come out and shoot here.
No problem. Thank you for putting me in the video.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, if you guys have any questions, let us know in the comment section down below. And at this point, I'm kind of just tired of jumping it. You ready to throw some like mediocre box jump tricks on it?
We'll try.
I mean, this guy knows, he's got the tricks. You got the tricks too, but box jumps aren't my thing, but it is part of it.
It's fun either way.
All right, guys, we'll see everybody in the next video.
Dogs are great.